I know the topic is on mental health, consciousness, and education, but I want to give you a little bit of background about why I'm here. I started off my career after graduating college from The Ohio State University in 2020, quarantine year, as many people know it. My first job getting out was I was a case manager working in Franklin County Jail, helping individuals suffering from opiate addiction disorder as they got out, helping them find treatment, housing, making sure that everything was in place so that way they would have success. And rather unfortunately, during that time, after doing so many risk examinations and so many risk assessments and talking to them so often, I found out that for the vast majority of them, the path into that jail cell and into prison started when they were in high school, middle school at times, elementary school for some of them. And so I decided that I would change my career paths. I would use my knowledge of both criminology, criminal justice, and the things I had learned about substance use and mental health to move into a school setting, to start working in what we call prevention. The thing is that school is probably one of the most constant things in the life of any of our kids. From the time that they're in kindergarten to the time that they are seniors in high school, at least. They may not have parents at times. They may lose them at that time. But the one thing that will always be there until they are 18 years old, if they don't decide to drop out, is going to be schooling, the school systems that they're in. But the unfortunate thing is that school isn't necessarily designed to help students that are facing mental struggles. And one thing that's become very clear over the last couple of years is that our students and our youth are more stressed than ever. In fact, recent surveys have shown that they're more stressed than their adult counterparts, than the adults in this room. Think about that. That the vast majority of the kids in this school who aren't paying bills are more stressed than the adults who are teaching them, who have faced these issues. And the worst part is that they don't necessarily know how to manage that stress or the ramifications that it could have on their mental health because they're so young. On one bad test day, they may think their life is over. And working at this school as a prevention specialist, I have had more than enough times where kids have gotten bad grades or something along their lives, and it has sent them into suicidal ideation. And so the topic of this presentation, the question of motivation, for many of us, what we assume motivation means is that motivation is the internal sources that we use to push ourselves, to be better, to do the work that we need to do. But the thing is that we tend to view motivation as this moral idea, like, are you internally motivated? And so what I want to do now is I want to try to change your frame about what motivation actually is. Because the vast majority of people want a better life for themselves, but they're focused on what other things would be. As was brought up earlier today, I wanted to give you more or less a rundown of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, better explain it. This is the foundation of everything that we do in social services, mental health, every single thing. When we are working as case managers, when we are helping clients, this is what we work off of. Basically, first things first, physical needs come first, okay? You're not gonna think about anything else if you're drowning. If you can't breathe, you are not thinking about your grades. The thing is that oftentimes what we assume to be a lack of motivation is often going to be a lack of something else. Some of these kids may not know where their next meal is going to come from. It may be Saturday and they won't be able to get breakfast and lunch tomorrow. Or they may not know if the lights are going to be turned off tomorrow. And when we're talking about mental health, it probably comes in at that second level, at safety needs. The thing is, education, and doing well in education especially, falls right up there at the top, at self-actualization. But the point of this period is that if everything at the bottom is messy, if they don't have food, if they don't have safety, if they don't have that love and belonging, they are not going to do well while they are here. And the thing about mental health, and what many of us may not seem to realize, is that just like personal security and safety is important, mental security is just as important. It is on that second level. If somebody has food, water, shelter, sleep, clothing, if they have all of that and they move up to that second level, then mental security becomes the next thing. But it's easy for us to dismiss what someone says when they say, I have anxiety, I have depression, okay? I'm panicking. We can dismiss those things by saying things like, well, everyone has anxiety. Everyone has problems. What makes you so special? We all have those things. But the problem is, it's very easy for us to forget about the anxiety until the student has a panic attack on test day. It's easy for us to forget about the trauma until they're having flashbacks in class. And it's easy for us to forget about the depression until they're not in class the next day because they took their life the night before. So what do we do? What can we do as educators, as administrators, as adults, as community members to make sure that these kids fulfill what they need to, do the things that they want to do? What can we do? The truth of the matter is there's not going to be enough therapists in the world to settle every single issue. We don't even have enough in this state to help everyone else. And while that is an entirely different talk of its own about how we could actually get more therapists, what I want to propose to you is how can we actually prevent these issues from forming in the first place? Or at the very least, how can we make sure that we can manage them in the ways that they need to be managed? And so I bring you another foundation of what we do. These are the 40 developmental assets of prevention. Everything that I do, either in this school or in the community, is based on these developmental assets. They are separated into two groups. External, which is environmental, everything that is around a student, and internal, what their attitudes and what their ideas and what their perceptions about the world are. Obviously, there is not a whole lot that we can necessarily do to change those internal attitudes, at least immediately. But what we can do is change what we do, to change the environment and to change exactly how we respond to these issues. So, the 4 external assets, technically speaking, there are 40 of these. But quite frankly, I don't have time to go over the 20 that are in this category. So what I would rather do is explain out what these categories are. Okay? Support is probably the easiest thing for us to do, but it's also probably the hardest for us to do. It's very easy for us to support a student that is doing well, our IBs, our honors students. It's an entirely different thing for us to encourage the student that was failing at the beginning of the year and pulled them up from a C. Because they don't meet our idea of success. Our idea of success is them getting A's and B's and everything, and now they're just at passing level. But to them, whatever it was that they were going through pushed them to do better. They overcame what they needed to pass the class. They found the energy to try and to care. And what we should do is support them in that and encourage them to move forward. This also includes recognizing when issues are present. If we notice a kid come in one day, I'm not saying that every teacher needs to be a certified mental health counselor with a license to be a social worker. That's not what I'm saying at all. Teachers already have enough to do. But at the very least, what we can do is connect those students to the resources that they may need to get that help. The other, and probably the most important aspect that we can do as school administrators and educators is be caring adults. One of the most important aspects of these 40 developmental assets, and one of the ones I actually have committed to memory, is other caring adults in the lives of youth. Other caring adults can be anyone. As long as they're not parents, that's where that comes in. Other caring adults. I can be one of those individuals. Anyone in this room can be one of those individuals. Security, principals, teachers, janitors. I will never forget the janitor in my school, Mr. Moon. He was able to inspire students as a custodian to do better because he cared. The next one is empowerment. And more or less, what this is making sure that students feel as though they are valued in the community, that their contributions are valued. It doesn't just mean that we are trying to give them the opportunities, but we are pushing them towards those opportunities, and that we give them a useful role. One of the most powerful things that students have done, and one of the things that has built up their confidence so much, is actually helping their friends when they are experiencing issues. One thing that's great about Princeton is Hope Squad. Students are trained in Hope Squad to transfer their friends who are experiencing, and their peers who are experiencing suicidal issues or depression to mental health staff here. The next thing is boundaries and expectations. Obviously, boundaries are going to be rules, understandings of what's going to happen, and consequences, clear consequences especially. I'm not saying that the consequences need to be severe. I'm actually part of the school's SUD program, SUD Expulsion Abeyance program. It's one of the best programs I've worked, and I've had probably amazing success with it. And of course, expectations need to be high. The last thing here is constructive use of time. Providing constructive use of time, either being it productive, doesn't just involve academics, but sports, arts, music, anything at all that could be something that's structured. Because harmful behaviors happen when there's nothing else for someone to do. So to wrap up, okay, how do we solve this issue? We support, we empower. We make sure that our rules are clear and our expectations are high, and we give them, students, the opportunities to share, to care, and to do the things that they need to do. Because it's a lot easier to climb high when you have somebody to catch you if you fall.